Do you need a passport to get to the other state? Did you, and is that Harry? Which Harry is this?
It's Harris.
Harris, okay.
Yeah, we can get the picture.
No problem. Let me just get our Facebook Live. And forgive us, the service was a little longer than expected, and so we got a little bit behind.
We're already very emotional.
Okay, so I want to show our people on Zoom some of our new friends that came to the church. They just went up this week, today and yesterday, St. Paisios. I think that's St. Magdalene, Saints Constantine and Helen, St. Calliope, and I think that's St. Theodore. I think so. And then we have, we got a crowded church here. Then we have Glorine, we have George and Gabriel, and Sophia, and Presbytera is, and then up above is Joseph Isakides and Dimitri Frangiskatos. They're working on upgrading our live stream. So we have to get closer. Introducing this topic today, I'd like to begin with a story that I think really introduces this beautiful theme of detachment. So Saint Basil the Great, we know, was Bishop of Caesarea, right? And him and Gregory, the theologian, we know, were classmates in Athens. Another classmate of those who was became their antagonist was who?
I'm not sure.
Justin the Apostate.
Oh, he was their classmate.
He was a classmate also of theirs.
Yes, he became a big adversary.
And Justin the Apostate wished to reintroduce the Greek gods back into the worship of the empire. So he became an antagonist to Saint Basil. And one time, it's been a while since I read the story, so I'll just get to the juicy part of it. He was threatening Saint Basil, and he says, if you don't quit, working against me, I'm going to take your home. He goes, that's fine. You can. I'm going to put you in prison. He goes, that's fine. You'll honor me, so I can be in a cell like the Lord was in the cell. And he goes, well, I'll take your clothes. And he goes, well, I just have this little tattered thing. If you want it, go ahead, take it. And he says, well, I'll take your books. And he says, I only have a couple of them, but he goes, I'll dispatch you of your life. And he says, well, you'll bring me closer to my love and to my Lord. And he goes, I've never met a man like you. And he goes, that's because you've never met a true bishop. And so this story of St. Basil, I think, kind of introduces a person who was detached from the ways of life that, of course, create for many of us, a good portion of the world, anxiety and other types of mental disorders that can, to some extent be taken back to the sense of, where one becomes attached, what one becomes attached to. So I just wanted to introduce you to that story. Did you know that story?
I knew it, and it's good to be reminded of it because I had not been thinking about it for a while, years. And it's very approachable here during the 5th week of Lent, I think. We just celebrated St. John of the Ladder, and you see how Father John, in his wisdom from before Lent, was thinking, this would be a good week to talk about detachment. right after celebrating St. John of the Ladder, we're now celebrating St. Mary of Egypt's memory, anticipating the Sunday. So this is a very...
And she was attached and then became detached. So there's a really, really very interesting subject tonight. But, oops, sorry for that. What's your take on some of the things that you read today, Father Michael? And,
I thought this was very, very interesting of a reading. He was so it was so image rich. He kept going. He went to a couple stories, but he went to a lot of the gospel parables, which I feel like he was harping on the gospel more than some of the other weeks. I really enjoyed this reading.
And so along with some of the images that I found in there, I was able actually to come to my mind with some new ones that I think described. And I think the first image I kind of want to use is the Venus flytrap or the pitcher plant, And they usually, how do they attract their prey?
With a beauty and a smell.
Correct, right? A beauty and a smell, and then the bug for the Venus flytrap finally steps in enough and it closes, right? And for the pitcher plant, it falls in and then it can't get up, and then it starts digesting it, right? And I thought that was really Saint Basil was really bringing forward the traps of the devil and how he really tries to capture our souls through things that we like to become attached to. And what were some of those areas that can create that danger of being caught into the snare of the devil?
I think the first one he touches on a few times is wealth, avarice, and possessing. And the more possessions we have, the more we want, but it just weighs us down.
So wealth can, in a sense, create a certain sense of pleasure, right? Oftentimes, people that have wealth can take time to, go gamble. They can take time to maybe spend it on extravagant foods. They can take
leisure and idle time.
Idle times, and then and sometimes it can often be used with vice. That if you don't necessarily have that wealth, you might not go after the vice because you don't have the money to support those things.
He says, like a thief waiting in a shadow or behind a rock in a ravine. The devil waits for us, like this Venus flytrap. The devil waits for us in pleasure as we're walking along and we won't be expecting it.
And one quote that really hit me was how the devil uses our own being against us. And I thought that was fascinating. He says he attacks us, as you know, by turning our own desires as arrows against ourselves, and never draws from our own selves the power to do us harm. So, and it's kind of funny because when the devil tempted Eve, right, he didn't know anything. The devil was clueless, but Eve revealed it to him. And so by her own words and by her own desires, she kind of became her own self-destruction.
Could you detail a little bit more?
What does the disciple goes, Eve, can you eat from everything here? She goes, yes, but we can't eat from this tree of the knowledge of God. Why? What did she say? Going back to why can't you eat from that?
Because we will die.
Because we will die, right? And the devil says, no, you won't die. You'll have knowledge like God. And so good for her. And since, however, the Lord greatly limited his power by inviolable laws and did not permit him to destroy our race at once by his attacks, The malicious demons, taking advantage of our folly, wins his victories by stealth. So so wealth, you said, could be a big trap. Not that wealth is evil, but wealth can be a trap, right? And what other traps was he also?
Lust. He was referring to the pleasure that comes from, a woman's allure, or I guess, biological lust.
So lust, and I think he also looked at gluttony too, right? Because
Oh yes, yes,
because he was saying, we sometimes, we find something that's pleasurable to our palate, and before you know it, you ate the whole bag, and then what was once pleasurable, you're like, oh my God, my stomach really hurts. I got to go to the bathroom, or you're up all night because of heartburn and indigestion and all those things. So there he lurks in secret and spreads his net for our destruction. If then we would safely traverse the road of life lying before us and offer to Christ our body and soul alike, free from the shame of wounds, so we shouldn't be afraid of the wounds of Christ, and receive the crowns of this victory, the crowns that were put on his head, we must always and everywhere keep the eye of our soul wide open, holding in suspicion everything that gives pleasure. And I think St. Gregory of Nyssa writes something about this. And who was St. Gregory of Nyssa?
St. Gregory of Nyssa is the brother of St.
He's
Basil.
the brother of St. Basil. And he was writing on the tree, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And he says, evil is so evil in itself, no one in the right mind would choose it. That's how disgusting evil is. Like if someone vomited right here, you would not want to go near it, or if there was a decaying carcass over here that was for days, just stinky and disgusting, you would go to the other side. So that's how disgusting evil is. So what does evil do? It hides behind the good. It hides behind pleasure. I think one example of this could be, let's say, drug addiction. A person starts maybe with a gateway drug like marijuana that's now being made legal, right? In New York, it's legal in about 15 states. And you smoke a little marijuana. Oh, it feels good. I like this, And then you smoke maybe a little bit more. And then before you know it, you're kind of hooked into that pleasure. And then what you're looking to get is not what it becomes, you think is pleasure, it's actually becomes a self-destructive cycle. So I thought Jim, I see you groaning a little bit.
So the worm is to come on, but in the worm is a hook, right? And you got to remember that same worm has another hook in it. So that same pleasure can be a good pleasure if it's not with a hook. There's another way of actually embracing the hook. Not the marijuana, but you get what I'm saying.
So the hook when you're fishing, the worm on a hook, and I was thinking of the Greek, story, the Trojan horse. He accepted a gift, and he specifically spoke about when people are being like complimentary and things like that. And so it was a gift that the Greeks gave. And what was it? It was really a stealthy trap that was used to tear down the city.
And I think another beautiful imagery that I really enjoyed, Father Michael, is the imagery of journey.
Oh yeah.
A sojourner. Do you want to maybe comment on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I can. So he was drawing on this image a lot, and the interesting thing is we have this path. The part that I really liked was journeying on a boat. And when you're journeying on a boat, any good seaman, when they start sinking, what is their natural thing, their natural desire? They dump all the heavy cargo. They have to lighten the load. And even though they get paid and they grow riches, this is their work, to bring that the important and the rich car go over, they don't care at that moment. They are getting rid of it as quickly as possible because they are desperate for their lives to get to their destination, and they discard everything as much as possible.
So you're skipping a few.
Oh, am I?
But it goes along with it goes along with
We're gonna step back to
because that's gonna go back to also that it's a good image, but also when you journey, right? Like so in these days, right? Journeying was often done how?
on foot.
On foot. You walked. That was mostly, how most people got around. And when you're walking, are you looking to carry with you heavy stuff? Are you going to pick up a leaden couch and say, I'm going to walk, 50 miles with this on my back? And so there's a beautiful psalm that says, blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord. And then when we put our vestments on, we put the belt on, and we say, gird me with strength, blessed is the way that you make of my feet. And so if we look at and St. Basil talks about the journey beginning when?
At birth? Oh,
yeah, right out of the mother's womb, man. Here it goes. The light is there. You come out, and you're on your journey, and you're carrying. And the thing is, when you start that journey as a child, are you carrying anything? You're not carrying one thing, right? And we're going to go right because I think Job says something very beautiful about that. And so when we attach ourselves to unnecessary things, it weighs us down, and it keeps us from getting to our destination. It keeps us from getting our yes.
Explain to me that we no longer travel anymore. So there was a time when people traveled, like you're talking and calling it a journey, but no one travels to Greece anymore. You go to Greece. You don't travel to Boston. You go to Boston. So and traveling itself was an experience. The travel was an experience. It's an experience that almost no one has our age, because if you have to go somewhere, you go there, right? So then what happens? In travel, where travel once had a destination, how do you sell travel in the 21st century? I'll tell you, you go nowhere. The cruise to nowhere. So what's happened in our age is two things. We go everywhere and we travel nowhere. So what's being used here is a real good metaphor of the stages of travel. As I travel, things change as I'm on my destination. In our world, we neither travel to go somewhere, nor when we get somewhere have traveled, because we go on the plane and we're off the plane. So he's talking about metaphors that we have to rethink. We're at a point now where if there's any place I have to go to, I'll get there right away. And the only traveling is getting through like roadblocks. It's not like meeting people. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a beautiful thing to talk about, Jim, too, because I remember when I was in Brooklyn, and I developed a post-traumatic stress disorder. You know why? Because of the BQE. And so, there was days I couldn't think about driving, so I would hop on a bus and I would walk from one place to another, and I would meet people, and people would come up and say, hey, Father, give me a blessing, and I came across people that I hadn't seen for a while, and some of those people got reattached to the church. And when you think about the life of the Lord, everything with him was by foot. And when he traveled and he journeyed, there's crowds always around him, and he was moving and moving, and he was really with the people, and he was really interactive. This was a foot soldier. This was a person. This was a grassroots endeavor. So this our attachments. But sometimes, we talk about, so the question is, how is attachment related to other people, not necessarily material things. We talk about codependent relationships and stuff like that, where, sometimes your personality or your emotions and feelings are set in stage by someone else, right? If it's a dysfunctional relationship. And if you're attached to that, it can really, and that can go into even talking about spousal abuse and stuff like that. One of the things that we've had a rise in the uptick over this past year with the pandemic is that, spouses weren't really used to being together 24/7, and some of them were ready to kill each other, and these things could, and it can also, and it's attached to material wealth, because sometimes sometimes in communities, it happens. People want to be part of a group of friends for the esteem of it. I know this person because they have this power, or I know this person because they have this money, and I have, and sometimes their behavior becomes very, I wouldn't use the word bestial, but off mark, because they want to maintain that status. They're attached to that social status setting.
No doubt, though, the heavier emphasis that St. Basil is placing is material goods, but also material comforts and pleasures. And when we get to the story of Job, he has a couple nice things to say about relationships.
So, and then one of the things that helps us to put into perspective our belongings, I found it kind of humorous, but it's also very, very dreary in a sense, right? Is death, right? He was talking about a man with many farms and big homes, and his, and everything was set around maintaining these things, for him to shortly after be put 6 feet under the ground, and someone else has possession of it now. What you think is yours really isn't. It really isn't. So and so death is really a great tool. It's a great motivator for living life in the best of ways, I think.
Yeah, he says, nothing of this world, no pleasure, can you ever truly own, can you ever have possession of. But he says, if you really seek that which you can possess, virtue, through the grace of God, that will run ahead of you towards eternal life and will be with you for eternity. So your virtues are, you see all these things as so fleeting, and we have to, train ourselves in that way. The remembrance of death, the remembrance that this is so fleeting, but virtue, that we have with us, and we have to seek after.
And that kind of brings us into the perfect segue. So thank you for bringing this in. So I'll share this.
I threw us off before now.
Now it's perfect timing. Sometimes we're on, sometimes we're off.
Sometimes we're off.
It happens, right? We love you. We love each other, though, right?
Yes, I
love being with you, man. On the other hand, we should be at great pains for those possessions which can truly be ours. What are the possessions that are ours? What then really belongs to us? A soul whereby we live, a light and spiritual being which has no need of anything weighty, and a body which was provided for the soul by the Creator as a vehicle for carrying on life. Presbytera, please don't use these words against me tonight or tomorrow or the next day.
Uh-oh.
This, therefore, is a mind This, therefore, is man, a mind united with a fitting and serviceable body. So the sense that this body, this physical body that we have, has a purpose for conveying and journeying the soul, carrying the soul. And so we should supply for the body just what is enough for it, right? But if we overdo it, the body can then become a hindrance to the soul. So for him, creation lies outspread as an exercise ground for virtue. So life, this journey, this inheritance that we have in this world is an exercise ground. We're all looking for gym applications right now, right? Gym memberships. And we don't really need to go to gym memberships, because the whole world before us is truly a gymnasium, a gymnasium. And what's the root of the word gymnasium?
Is it wrestling naked? Something?
Someone who wrestles naked, where you work out naked, right? When you work out naked without any clothes. This is how the ancient Greeks, worked out. And so you strip down. And so this idea of stripping down and letting go, I think, is a incredible. I didn't even think about that.
Even today, though, you'll see, Father John or I are working out. We don't wear our full, gear. If you could see a CEO, Jamie Dimon, when he's exercising and he's wearing his shorts and you have to strip down for exercise still. And if we want to be fit spiritually, we need to strip down.
The word serviceable, it means one like a car, right? But it also means a body that can serve. A serviceable body is a body that actually has the ability to serve. And one of the reasons you can go to to get in shape for your health. You can go to the gym to look good, or you can go to the gym to be a better athlete, to play the game well. And I have a hunch that St. Basil was saying the reason you go to the gym is to get better at the game, because the goal here is to win. It's not to look good, it's not to even be healthy, it's to have your body functioning so you can do what's needed.
I think you're on target. I think that's right on target. Would you say he's on target? Not bad for philosophy. So for him, the law was made commanding the imitation of the Creator in accordance with his power and reproducing upon the earth, as if in a rough outline of the good order of heaven. So this exercise ground of virtue, for him, the law was made, the laws of God, commanding the imitation of the Creator in the image and likeness of God. So our job is to imitate the Creator in accordance with his powers and reproducing upon the earth. So making the order of heaven as an outline, the earth should be an outline of the orders of heaven. And that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong stuff.
Incorporeal, by the way.
So we were talking about stripping down, and it goes back to Job, who plays a big role in today's topic on detachment. And I love the little interlude about his wife.
I love all of it, but that's what I was referring to with Glorian. It's really powerful.
Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. So naked we came, naked we go, right? And so this sense of wanting to possess, the sense of wanting to hold on to things are counterintuitive, right?
Mm-hmm. And then this St. Paul. Yeah, we brought nothing into this world, and certainly we can carry nothing out with us.
But having food and wherewith to be covered, with these we were content. So again, just the basic things, the basic things we
give
need.
us this day our daily bread.
Now, a man who has his own best interests at heart will therefore be especially concerned for his soul and will spare no pains to keep it stainless and true to itself. If his body is wasted by hunger or by its struggles with heat and cold, if it is afflicted by illness or suffers violence from anyone, he will make small account of it. And echoing the words of Paul, he will say in each of his adversities, "But though our outward man is corrupted, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." So, and this goes, back to, this thing kind of really sets up the stage for Job. So, what were some of the things that you caught about Job that's connected to this sense of detachment?
Job, it was powerful, and this sense of attachment is oftentimes how we are brought down. Oftentimes the devil tempts us, and that is our death. Whether it be vainglory or attachment to our reputation, which is a little bit prideful, whether it be riches or family, wealth, security. And so with Job, the devil tempted him, and the Lord allowed the devil to go and tempt Job, who was a very wealthy man. He had wonderful children, and his children had wealth. And so one by one, the devil, to show God that he had power over this world and that he had power over us, starts stripping him of these things, starts taking away one by one. So he takes away his children's wealth. Job is okay. Glory to God. He takes away Job's wealth and his possessions. Job is okay. I forget, Father.
So one was that the rich man was rich because he was stingy. Okay. So that's why he wasn't, But many of us today are not just stingy, but but we take our wealth and we misuse it. So we go gamble. So we do this and we do that and we do that, and there becomes even a meanness and a selfishness that's so becomes so harsh, so that when someone comes to you with tattered clothes, you say to yourself, well, they have some clothes, they don't need any more clothes. They come up with so many other excuses. And so the can't confess from hell. And these words of Saint Basil, he really, as a doctor, and Jim, I like what you really said, because the reason he's given the title Great, Saint Basil the Great, because he put all of it, he took all of it. Yeah.
The danger in the 21st century in terms of this is to think if we give others money to take care of the poor, we don't have to care. That's the problem. So if to say we need more money for the homeless and then step over them in the street because I gave my money doesn't help me or them. So what we're talking about, I think at a very deep level, is not so abstract. It is actually having your heart open to the pain of another person.
Yeah.
And not, very important, not blame their situation on someone else. That person's poor because that person over there didn't help them makes me what? A Pharisee. And he's talking about something very different. Am I willing to see that poor person and cry for them? Not say they're poor because of someone else. And I'm only saying this because this is at the core of what we're dealing with right now. We need to get precision on this. We need to help through acts and deeds, not through virtue signaling and blaming others. That's the key. That's the game. And I think it's important today to be clear about that. 10 years ago, 10 years from now, it may be another issue.
Could I make one last point before we close?
Yeah. Of course you can.
Thank you, Jim, for focusing us on not offshoring our charity. It's a dangerous concept today. There's one line that I just want to mention. An acquaintance of mine recently passed away. Somebody that was from Flushing, and younger than me. And I was thinking about it. One of the most difficult things that we ever face in this life is losing our children. Right? That is, if you know anybody, they can sympathize at least with the Panahia who needed to watch her son go. But that is one of the most difficult and challenging things, whether it be to an overdose or some kind of, tragic thing like that, or an accident or whatever it may be. Very, very painful. But St. Basil, so I just didn't want to leave tonight without mentioning it, that St. Basil speaks to this concept tonight. He said, Job, when he was restored after he goes through all of his temptations, and, remember that greatest one was his wife. His wife's, breaking down, being the weaker side there. After all that, the devil is put to shame, and the Lord is glorified, right through Job. Naked I came into the world, naked I will leave it. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Glory to God. He totally remains faithful. He's restored. He's given back his wealth. But he's also given twofold. Everything he had, he's given twofold. So however many cattle he had, his cattle horde is twice as much. All the land he had is twice as much.
You get double wives?
He never lost his wife. He probably would have gotten. But he only got the same number of children. And you wouldn't notice it. You just read the story of Job. I never thought about that. He got the same number of children. He bore children again. He got the same number of children. And St. Basil says it's because he never lost his children. His children were waiting for him, but those were still his children. So he doesn't need to replace them. He just got the same amount so that his children were doubled.
Now, in closing, as we talk about detachment, and it's not easy, and we're surrounded by saints right now, right? We're going to be surrounded by more saints, and it's important to have these saints in our lives. And these were people that were detached. Detachment is it's a spiritual step. It's truly a spiritual step, and to the point where the martyrs themselves were willing to detach with their own lives. They were willing to detach with their own lives. So when we are met with suffering, like Job, okay, and when these things come across us, remember these words of St. Basil, because it kind of, I think, sums up exactly what the story that Father Michael was saying. No one should be led by his sufferings to think or to say that no providence rules our affairs. No one should be led by his sufferings or to think or to say that no providence rules our affairs. Nor should any man cast aspersion upon the government and decree of the Lord. Now, the translations here, I'm not, what they are actually in Greek, I don't know. Let him contemplate the athlete just mentioned, talking about Job, and provide himself with an advisor of wiser counsel. Let him review in his mind all the trials, one after another, in which Job distinguished himself, and reflect that, for all the many shafts aimed at him by the devil, he did not receive a mortal blow. So our sufferings, that we should not be led by them. Our suffering should not dictate our who we are. This is I think very important, because we're caught up in a society that if I suffer something or wrong, or someone has done something against me, we think that justice is one way, and next week we're going to talk about mercy and justice as our last talk during this great time. This spiritual life of the Orthodox Church sometimes says something very, very counterintuitive and very different. So with that, Father Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, Father.
George, did you?
He prophesizes Christ. He says, I wish I had someone to confront and ask. You know what I mean? Someone like, he puts it in like a legal setting. And he says, I wish I could come face to face with the person that, that understands the situation. And so in that regard, we have something that Job didn't have, because now we're living in a time where Christ is now, has been incarnated, has been ascended into heaven, and it's been much as the Holy Spirit has been poured out. So maybe I can balance the scales with Job's piety, and even more so the fact that I have a relationship with a living God. And that's the second person of the Holy Trinity that's been incarnate and knows me revealed himself to me and has given the Holy Spirit to us. I just thought that was interesting. He actually
Now we have it.
Yeah. And don't forget, Job, we end Holy Week reading Job, right? We end Holy Week reading Job. We go from Isaiah into the prophecies of Job, because Job is an image of Christ in the Old Testament, right? So thank you so much. We had a great retreat last Saturday. It was met with some curveballs and challenges, but I think we met them all the way. I want to thank Presidenta for cooking delicious black beans and rice today. Thank you for that, Presidenta. And the killers. And we have this is one I wanted to ask the Bible study on Holy Sunday night. When we get into Holy Week, there's readings that we do, like the Psalms, and the Synexity and the Doxology, the Creed. We're trying to get the Philoptos is going to do the readings on Tuesday. I think Goya is going to do it on Monday. And I was wondering if the Bible study would be willing on Sunday night to get here maybe before the services start, and we can divvy out who's going to read what psalm or what thing, just so we can have more people participating. Palm Sunday night.
7:30.
Yeah, so I think 7.
Okay.
I'm not sure. 7 or 7:30. Harry, thank you so much. Jim, thank you so much. Remember, Jim, you're the inspiration behind this. And Maria, which Maria is this?
Is it? It might be your Maria.
Okay.
That's okay. Glorian's name, Sierras.
Okay. God bless you guys.
Yes, yeah, we hear you, Maria. God bless you, Maria. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Joseph, would you be able to come?